Hey everybody, I have spent yesterday and today looking at your voice threads for week 2 and am thoroughly pleased with your efforts and progress in this assignment. I realize that sometimes if you are given new technology to demonstrate your learning and understanding, that can throw you a curveball. Much like the personal introductions that you all did, you all made a sincere effort to navigate the technology. I realize that there may be some other courses that are using VoiceThread, so I'm hoping that this isn't new for everyone. Much like in our clinical practice, when somebody from our technology department or our supply department shows up with a newfangled piece of equipment, it can throw us for a loop. But my hope is that you're one of those persistent types that you look at technology, or at least meaningful technology that supports your work, as worth the effort to try to figure out and be persistent with. It is definitely a good quality to adhere to when you're faced with new things and you just struggle with it, but you struggle through it. I'm one of those people that are kind of like a dog with a bone, where if I am faced with something that I don't understand, I keep at it and keep at it until I figure it out. And normally along the way, I wear everybody out in my path by asking 10,000 questions. Know that if you're struggling to navigate technology, or if instructions are ever unclear, or you just need a little bit more guidance, know that I'm here. The Ask the Professor link is available to you specifically for the logistics, the who, what, when, where, how kinds of questions, things that are personal to you, to your experience, to your grade. Know that you can email me. I'm happy to set up a time where you and I can get on the phone, even if it's in the evenings or the weekends, for you and I to talk through an issue or an assignment question. Online learning can make you feel like you are really out on an island by yourself. Know that that's not my approach to this course. I certainly am going to treat you like adults and let you figure things out as you need to and as you can, but I don't want you to feel like you're trying to figure this out all by yourself if you need additional support. Um, from a content standpoint, I was really pleased that so many of you went to a variety of different topics. My hope is that wherever your specialty area or your area of interest, that you were able to find a scenario that you related to. So my hope is, or at least my sense was, that you all had a good variety and each of you chose some different topics. So I appreciate your efforts in that. From a logistics standpoint, from a feedback standpoint, know that the feedback that's provided to you is in Blackboard under the rubric. Be sure that you go into the rubric and that you read my feedback, but that you also go back to your post and see if someone sent you a comment on your voice thread. See what they had to say and the ideas that they shared. Certainly isn't required for you to go back into your original voice thread and listen to peer replies. My hope is that you do. Again, I'm a curious type, so I want to know what everybody is talking about, and I'm terrible because if somebody says something that I think is interesting, I'll reply back and I'll wind up dragging somebody into a conversation, whether they want it to be there or not. Okay, so we've talked about feedback. Let's talk a little bit about references. When you approach a discussion board, or for our example today, a voice thread, very commonly the instructions are going to ask you to cite references, and we're going to ask you specifically in this course that to cite that your reference that's required is in addition to your textbook. I'm glad you're reading the textbook. My hope is that you find that it's a pretty useful textbook. But I want you in the literature. I want you to go into articles and see what they're saying about your topic. So to get full credit for an assignment, you need to go above and beyond your textbook. The other thing I want to remind you is that if there is a cited source within your textbook, that what we call a secondary source, for us this week it was the ANA Code of Ethics. That was a secondary source cited in your textbook. So you needed to, if you used the ANA Code of Ethics as your second non-textbook support, it needed its own reference. My suspicion is that many of you used the ANA as it was cited in the textbook as your reference. So however you navigated that, remember, if something is cited as a secondary source in a textbook, there's an APA way to properly cite a secondary source, and that anything in your textbook, unless it's cited separately, is not adequate scholarly support. As you go through your education, whether you're going to finish your RN to BSN and you're done, or if you're thinking about a graduate degree, know that you're at that level of it's great to have an opinion. It's great to have experiences, and many of you are experienced nurses. You got a lot of stories to tell. but it's as important from a scholarly standpoint to support your experiences, to support your ideas. So it's okay for you to say, this has been my experience, but then I want you to back it up with saying, and this is what the literature says, this is what this article says, this is what this professional organization says. Use scholarly supports to support your opinion, your ideas, and your experiences. That's that next step in scholarly behavior. You're going to eke by if you're just using your textbook, and if you're in a season in your life that's okay, I'm okay with that. But know that if you really are trying to stretch and grow, I want you in the literature. I want you to be looking at what published authors are saying. I want you to know what your professional organizations are saying. I want you to know what reputable government agencies are saying. Use those supports as appropriate. Another thing, when you're doing a presentation like your VoiceThread or a voice over PowerPoint or just a PowerPoint, be sure that your presentation slides are aesthetic. They need to not just have information, but they need to engage your viewer. You need to use pictures that are appropriate. If you're using pictures and as you finish your presentation you realize that they're a little blurry, shrink the size a little bit. Maybe change the background color of your slide. When you enlarge a picture beyond the post-it pixel size, it gets really grainy and it can be hard to see for your viewer. So be thoughtful about not just am I addressing the required elements of this assignment, but have I also looked at the aesthetics of it? Is someone going to sit in my audience and be engaged just by the way I've presented the material? That's a key step for you when we think about that next level of learning and that next level of presentation. For me, my yardstick is if I had to stand in front of my professional colleagues with a presentation, am I proud of this? Is this something that I would be okay with my peers looking at if I was sharing new information for them? So maybe think about using that as your yardstick. I also get that sometimes the weeks occur and you're just trying to get something off your plate. That's okay. But know that when we're looking at scholarly behavior, we want to be thinking about the aesthetics and the appearance of our slides so that they're appealing to the audience and the intended audience that you're using. I'm going through my notes. I think those are the big things that I wanted to touch base with. Yep, I think I'm good. As you prepare to do your leadership interview, if you've already done it, great. I want to remind you that you need to be using a nurse leader, and that nurse leader needs to be involved in the evaluation process in the organization in some way. If you're using a bedside nurse leader and what they do is contribute information to annual evaluations, that's okay. But find someone who's influencing someone through feedback. That's normally how we kind of differentiate between formal and informal leadership. So I want you to get as close to a formal leader as possible. I want you to be thoughtful about the questions that you're asking. And if you're asking a question and their answer doesn't actually answer the question you asked, rephrase the question. Typically, one of the areas that people struggle with are ethical and legal issues. So you ask the leader, tell me what your biggest ethical and legal issues are, and they spend the entire time talking about, okay, this is the ethical issue. Go back in and say, okay, we got ethics covered. Talk to me about legal issues. You need to be fluid with the questions you're asking, just like if you were interviewing someone or you were being interviewed. You need to understand the information you're trying to get at. So be intentional about interviewing your leader. And then I want you to spend some time just sitting with the information. I want you to think about what they said. What were the takeaways? The reason that I have this assignment designed to be a worksheet is because I don't want you to get lost in paper. I don't want you to be typing up everything in a real formal way. I want you to give me the nuts and bolts. What was your takeaway? What's the thing you took away from each of these elements for this assignment? You are submitting a worksheet. There's an area in there that does ask you to do a professional APA citation to support your ideas, but most of it is just, I asked this question and this is what they said. I want you to be sure to add the contact information for your leader so that if I go through it and I have questions or I have any concerns, I'm going to contact you first, but then I may reach out to the person that you interviewed for clarity. So be sure that you mention that this is an academic process and that they may hear from me. Understand that if there's an issue that I'm concerned about, you and I are going to have a conversation before I ever involve the person that you interviewed. But I do need to make sure that you share that information with me so that if clarity is needed, that I can verify information. If you have questions or concerns about the assignment, if there's anything that's unclear, reach out to me. Be sure you're reading the rubric. I try to line up the rubric with the assignment instructions, but you never know. Sometimes you read something and you're not entirely sure. If you ever find yourself in a position, whether in this course or any other course, and you're thinking, I wonder if this is what she or he wants, that means that the instructions, either how you're reading them or how you're perceiving, or maybe even how they were written, were not as clear as they need to be. It is okay for you to say, can you tell me more about this? Know that I'm here and I'm receptive to that. Touch base and excuse me, let me know how you are. If there's anything going on I need to be made aware of, know that I'm here. I will look forward to reading your interviews and giving you some feedback, and then we'll talk more about the next assignment, the role of a nurse leader in quality. A good opportunity to talk about your quality issue, if you're interviewing someone within your specialty area, is maybe talk to them about some quality issues that are occurring in your health area during your leadership interview. You don't have to, just an idea. Okay, I think that's it. Know that I'm here. I will be thinking about you. Let me know how I can support you. Just an update, we are still in my world on baby watch. My daughter has not had the baby yet. So if for some reason there's a delay in the next 2 weeks, know that it is not likely to be anything that you've done or about you. It may just be that I'm a little distracted. Do not ever hesitate to poke me twice. Y'all have a great day and a great rest of your week. Take care.